Oh, y'all in trouble now. Giants, Jaguars. In the middle of winter, it's going to be 75 degrees in Jacksonville, but it's hot here today because I'm going to talk to my buddy, Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants on the crossover edition coming up next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Patty? What's going on?
What is up, my man? Wig, I've been waiting for this show. You don't know how long I've been waiting. So ever since I knew the Jaguars were on the schedule, here we are. We're going to have a great time tonight.
We are going to have a great time, man. It's just like people don't know how we vibe, man. We vibe all the time, and we're just so happy to finally get a chance to do this crossover together, man. I'm telling you. It really is something else to finally get the Giants and the Jaguars on the same podcast. But today's episode of Locked On Giants and Locked On Jaguars was presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code Locked On. Patty, we can sit here and talk about how happy we are to see each other, but I know everybody wants to hear the biggest stories from this game this weekend.
Absolutely, Wig. And we'll start it off with the Giants since they are the visitors and they are expecting a little bit of, some of that fine Jacksonville hospitality that y'all are famous for. So yeah, with the Giants, the big story is they're 5-1. And, they're convincing people slowly that it's a legitimate 5-1. But you know what? Is it really a legitimate 5-1? And by that, I mean, yes, the Giants beat the Packers. Yes, they beat the Ravens. It's 2 very good teams, but they're doing it in a rather unconventional way. And by that, I mean, their run defense isn't very good. They're not, I mean, their passing game is virtually, non-existent. They've been basically getting it done on Saquon Barkley's legs and some great coaching, by the way. This just goes to show you how important coaching is. And, this is a young team. It's in a rebuild, but who are these Giants? I guess that's the biggest question. Who are these Giants? I asked head coach Brian Daboll about that. I said, what's the identity? I said, we're 6 weeks into the season. What is the identity of this team? And he just said, well, we just work every day and we're just trying to get better. And he never really gave me a true answer. Some people will say, oh, the Giants are grit, they're smart, they're this, they're that. We don't know what the identity is. And, again, the offense hasn't exactly been a juggernaut. You look at the receivers, Richie James, David Sills, Darius Slayton. Those are the 3 guys that at the start of the season, if you had said to me they were going to be the main guys, I would have said, nah, no way. It would have been Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard. That has not happened. So, how are the Giants getting it done? 5-1. Some people say smoke and mirrors, but you know what? Great coaching. Let's give credit where it's due. Brian Daboll and his staff getting the most out of this team. And really, they've been competitive. They've been in every game they played, never down by, I think, more than 2 scores. Even when they lost to Dallas, this team fought to the very end, and they're learning how to win. So, this Giants team, it's a very curious and odd result so far. But listen, after almost a decade of poor Giants football, I think we'll take it.
Yeah, man. And James and I don't know, I mentioned you on the Locked On NFL show last week. I did a segment called New York, because I couldn't believe that both teams were good at the same time. And James said you might be a week premature, but then they go out and beat the Ravens. So my thing is with the Giants is what I've noticed is, even though you say they're searching for an identity, one thing they're doing is they're winning or losing all of these games. There's 1 loss against 4 wins. Or 5 wins. They're playing the same way. I said today what they're doing is they're not doing this thing on Fifth Avenue. They're not playing that way. You know what they're doing? They're dragging you into the Bronx in an alley somewhere behind a building, and they're fighting. And it's like it's an alley fight, and they're coming out most of the time on top. Now, here in Jacksonville, they really don't have an identity because they have lost 3 in a row, and they found a way to lose them all in a different way. If I would have told you that the Jaguars have a plus 24-point differential, and the Giants have a plus 14-point differential, And you would scratch your head and go, well, who's 2-4 and who's 5-1? And the other thing is with Jacksonville, if I told you that Trevor Lawrence had a game where he had 5 turnovers, 4 fumbles, and an interception, they lost by 1 score, right, to the Eagles. And then I tell you that Trevor Lawrence and the offense, Trevor Lawrence completed 90% of his passes, had 2 incompletions. He was 20 out of 22. The running backs ran for 240 yards with nobody running for 100. That's 3 different guys. They did not turn the ball over, and they still lost by 1 touchdown. I mean, it's just amazing to me. They find different ways to lose, and they are searching for an identity right now. Trevor Lawrence has been a little bit up and down. The last 2 weeks, it's been Trevor Lawrence. He was good this week, but for two or 3 weeks, he wasn't good. But for 2 straight weeks, the number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker, has had a big penalty in the 4th quarter that the team would have gotten off the field on 3rd down. They got an automatic 1st down because of the personal foul penalty. So all of this stuff is just like your team. They're young, but where the Jaguars are trying to find a way to win games, the Giants are managing to actually win games. So what I think the big story for Jacksonville is, who are you? What are you going to do? Which team shows up? And even if you play well, can you find a way to gut it out and actually win the game? Because at the end of the day, no matter how well you play, the only thing that matters is a win and a loss.
And how hard is it to believe that the Giants are actually the dogs, the underdogs in this game? Does that not blow your mind?
Yeah, because even though they haven't played particularly well throughout the entire game, they have something that has given Jacksonville problems. They have a mobile quarterback, right? So a mobile quarterback who is kind of a gamer. He reminds me of Blake Bortles, where it's like as soon as you count him out athletically, he does something, you go, wow. And he has a game like the one he had a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, dang, man, how did he do that? And then Saquon Barkley looks like Saquon Barkley all over again. I think what it's going to come down to, and I know I circled this early in the year, especially during the draft. I was on record as saying the 2 players I liked the most were Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. And then I fell in love with Travon Walker because I didn't want Aiden Hutchinson. So now we get a game where you get all 3 of these players, and even though Trayvon and Thibodeau won't be on the field at the same time, you're still going to get a side-by-side look at both of them. And you'll likely see Trayvon matched up against Evan Neal as they did in college. So a whole bunch of conclusions are going to be drawn, even if they're going to be premature. They're going to be drawn after this game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be a slugfest for sure. And, we're going to talk about matchups in the next segment. But first, folks, we got to hear from our friends over at Blue Nile. All right, folks, we have more coming up on today's crossover edition with yours truly, Patricia Traina, host of Locked On Giants, and the one and only Tony Wiggins, host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. But first, if you're looking to pop the question, or maybe you have a milestone that you're going to celebrate or looking to celebrate, Blue Nile can help make your celebrations even more memorable. Blue Nile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. And they have helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Use their easy online tools to create the perfect engagement ring, or if you're looking for that special one-of-a-kind piece to commemorate a special occasion, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift no matter what your budget. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you are in a rush. So go ahead and make your moments sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code LOCKEDON to save $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. Again, that website is Blue Nile, BlueNile.com, and that promo code is Locked On, LOCKEDON, to save $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code Locked On. All right, you got Patricia Traina, host of the Locked On Giants podcast, and the one and only Anthony Wiggins. We've been waiting for this over a year now.
Actually have. I heard you do that live reading. You said sparkle. And I'm thinking like, did she say that because I got this sparkle? Because man, people don't understand. First of all, we have a thread that we use for work purposes, and it usually turns into a play session. And I'm always on there clowning, and the first person to laugh at all my jokes is Patricia. By the way, I'm the only one. I don't want to look on your page and see people calling you Pat. That's my thing. Nobody else. I'm gonna tell you, all y'all Giants fans, if I see one of y'all call her Patty, we're gonna have some problems. So that's my thing there. But no, man, with some of these key matchups. Oh, and actually, speaking of key matchups, before we get to that, we actually have key matchups key predictions every single Friday. Locked On Jags and Locked On Giants, of course, is your first listen. Make sure you check out NFL key predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts like Patricia and myself give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday, Monday, those 2 games on Monday night and Sunday night, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts who's BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. I mentioned the matchup between Evan Neal and Trayvon Walker. Now, the last I heard, Thomas, your other tackle on the other side, is going to be out. So that means, or he's injured. He's on the injury report, at least, right?
He's on the injury report. I think he's going to play, though. He's got an elbow.
Okay, so there's a lot of SEC there. That's Alabama and Georgia versus Georgia and Kentucky. Kentucky's Josh Allen. I think one of the key matchups is those guys got to get home, and they got to be able to get home against the Giants and force Daniel Jones off of his square, knock him off of his square a little bit and give him some things to think about. But when they do it, and this is critical, because the thing about these guys, some of these dudes, they go upfield and they create these lanes and these alleys. And the Jags are a real man-to-man team. So if you're a man-to-man and you create a lane in the alley for a quarterback to run, guess who's not looking at the quarterback? DBs, because they have their back to him. And that's where you get these long gains from the quarterback. If they flush Daniel Jones out, I think what they need to do is make sure they have someone watching him so that he doesn't get away or dump the ball off to Saquon Barkley. Because another issue the Jags have had in their back seven is tackling in open space. And Saquon is one of those dudes. One, he's hard to tackle anyway because he's like a fire hydrant with needles on it, and his thighs are so big. The other thing is he's fast and he's shifty, and he can go all the way and create big plays. That is my biggest concern. That is my key matchup, that the Jaguars don't get too far extended beyond the armpits of Daniel Jones and give him easy getaway routes where he can either run or dump the ball off to Saquon, and then he can start shaking and baking our secondary. If he starts doing that, the Jaguars are in trouble.
Yes, indeed. All right. That's a matchup I would agree with, but I'm going to give you another one from the Giants' perspective. The Giants' run defense hasn't been very good. All right. The Jaguars, on the other hand, I believe had the 9th best rushing attack in the league, averaging about 136.7 yards on the ground per game. James Robinson, I believe, is the leading rusher, 340 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns on 81 carries. And Travis isn't too far behind him as well. He's got 301 yards, 54 carries. That's a really, really deadly 1-2 punch, in my opinion. The Giants' run defense, 28th ranked run defense, currently allowing an average of 144.8 yards on the ground. I don't know what's going on with this run defense, because in the past it's been pretty good, but the linebackers aren't filling the holes. The fits aren't there. And, it's kind of, surprising, because Dexter Lawrence, who's one of their interior defensive linemen, he's been playing lights out this year. Now, they did finally get Leonard Williams back last week on a pitch count. Williams missed, I think, 3 or 4 games because of the MCL sprain he suffered, and just not quite yet himself. So hopefully, as they start to ease up on these restrictions they're placing on Leonard Williams and the snap counts, maybe that run defense gets a little bit better. But right now, that Giants run defense since Williams has been out, and even last week, just has not been good. And I'm concerned that the Jaguars are going to run the ball down the Giants' throats. And, the inside linebackers for the Giants, they've had their issues. Let's be, I'm being nice about it. They have had their issues. Tackling angles have been off. I asked Xavier McKinney today about, the 1-2 punch of that Jaguars running game. He said, they are tough customers. He says, we got to be on our angles. We got to be on our, mind our P's and Q's, and we got to get after those guys. We cannot let them, find an open lane. We can't, say, here, part the Red Sea, have at it. So that is a very big concern of the Giants, and probably my key matchup for this game.
Speaking of what you just said, and this is really important, there's been a lot of back and forth, especially in the media and then some of the fans, the really intelligent fans. They talk about Doug Peterson and how aggressive he is. And Doug Peterson has this philosophy that you pass the score, but you run to win. Translation, we're going to throw it all over the place. And then once we get the lead late in the game, we need to run it when we want to and run it when we have to. The issue is people believe that he's given up on the run too early because they're ignoring what he said his philosophy is. And he has Trevor Lawrence, and he feels like we're just going to wing it and let go. Based on what you said, I want to see if he accepts the challenge to be patient, because the Giants aren't going to score a lot of points and run away from you. So I want to see if he accepts the challenge and is not tempted to see what he has in his prize quarterback again, as opposed to just running the football and being really, really patient with the run and then switching it up, sort of run, and then at the end, if you have to throw it. I'm going to be interested this week to see if he switches that up, because I have a score prediction for you too in just a second.
Okay, well, before you get to that, I got to throw this in, because in preparation for the show, I've been listening to your shows, which I do, by the way, on occasion when time permits.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I looked around the locker room and I saw 26.
Oh,
and I'm
God.
like, oh man.
Oh my God.
And for those of you my Giant followers who don't know what I'm talking about, yes, you're thinking, okay, Saquon Barkley, why 26? No, I'm not talking about 26 Saquon Barkley. Wig knows who I'm talking about.
I know who you talk about. Everybody in Jacksonville knows who you talk about when you talk about 26 right now. You talk about Shaquille Griffin. That's who you're talking about. He has been a target, man, and he played awful last week. And I'm trying to figure out, though, who on that side is going to be the one to give him the problems. Who it could basically be. By the way, Evan Ingram wants y'all to. He told me to tell y'all hello too, because he's our tight end. By the way, so but the thing is, you're right. 26 is going to be a mark man, and Doug Peterson basically said it the other day. He said, if you do something poorly, you can trust the team you're going to play the next week and the week after that, they're going to see if you fixed it. And I think he's talking about Shaquille Griffin. Jacksonville is mad at him right now. He's played terribly.
Yep. And it's interesting because Daniel Jones has only thrown for over 200 yards once all season long, that against the Packers, which just blows your mind, which goes back to, what I was saying earlier. This week, I think they're licking their chops a little bit. And, 26 now. I asked a few guys, I said, did y'all get 26 shirts? And so, the receivers, they kind of knew what I was talking about when I said, did you get 20 shirts that said 26 on it?
So they're looking at, so you giving us bulletin board material. They're licking their chops at number 26, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a player that, if I were to put my 5 players to watch on the Jacksonville side, that would be one I would pick. I mean, Matt Ryan last week carved him up. The whole secondary, not just Shaq Griffin, just the whole secondary. So,
well, the exception of Tyson Campbell, it was everybody else and the linebackers. I believe one of the linebackers gave up 13 completions and 13 attempts.
Yeah,
that just cannot happen, especially against a team like the Giants, where they can just dump it off to the running back and he can just run for days. You cannot have that happen.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd throw that out there because
I'm glad.
I pay attention, man.
I know you do.
I checked out your show. I paid attention. So I had to ask in the locker room today, all about 26 and that pass defense, and you can tell that there's that gleam in their eye, like they're excited about it, but they're keeping it kind of cool. They're all like, right. Okay, tough competition, blah blah blah, all the right things, but you can tell. So.
You know what they're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we've got coming up for you. We've got score predictions and our wrap up. But first, we're going to hear from SimpliSafe. All right, folks, we are going to have predictions for you shortly on today's crossover edition of the Locked On Giants podcast and the Locked On Jaguars podcast, hosted by Patricia Traina, that's me, and Tony Wiggins, host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. But first, folks, home burglaries and intruder breaches are unfortunately on the rise, no matter where you seem to live. Don't let the bad guys win. Build up your best defense with a customized system from SimpliSafe. Used and trusted by thousands of people, SimpliSafe is cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and will even dispatch the appropriate first responders to your residence, even if you're not home. So don't risk your family's safety. Put SimpliSafe's 24/7 professional monitoring and advanced response technology to work for you today. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl to customize your system at a special listener discount of 20%. Plus, get your first month of interactive monitoring for free. That's SimpliSafe, simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl for your customized 20% off discounted security system and free month of interactive monitoring. All right, Wig, it's time. We got to do predictions. I'm not a big fan of doing predictions because I never get them right. And you know what? I have a dilemma. I got to tell you, I have a dilemma here. Can I tell you about this real quick?
Talk to me. What you got?
So I've been doing predictions on Giants Country, the website that I write for, and I've been picking against the Giants the last several weeks. And they have made me look stupid, which is fine. And I said in my prediction last week that it was the last time I would pick against them. But you know what? Sometimes, I hate to admit it, sometimes I get a little superstitious and I'm like, I remember in 2011 when the Giants went to the Super Bowl, I always picked against them, not because I knew they were going to lose, but because I was taking one for the team. So
gotcha.
I'm almost inclined to take one for the team. But then again, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence. You know what I'm saying? So I've got this dilemma here as to how I'm going to pick this score.
You got to go with your gut, man. You got to go with your heart, man. Don't sit here and go through all of those mental gymnastics, Patricia. You just got to let it rip. Go for it, man. I got a prediction. You want me to go first? I'll tell you.
Go ahead. You go first.
I haven't picked the Jaguars to lose yet, so I'm 2-4 in a year. I'm going to pick them to lose this game 19-17, and I'm going to tell you how they're going to lose it. It's going to be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. 17-16 Jags late. Giants go down, kick a field goal to win it, stay on the field on third down. It's going to be oh so close, but moral victories don't count. And I think the Jags fall to 2-5 because right now I think they're reeling and I think they're trying to find themselves. And Brian Daboll has been able to galvanize his team enough to the point where they'll figure out a way to win. I don't know how they've been doing it, but they've been figuring it out. You put that with the fact that the Jaguars have been figuring out ways to lose different ways. I think the Giants are going to win it by 1 point. But I'm not sure you're going to leave actually thinking they're the better team that day. I think everyone's going to see the promise of the Jaguars, but they're just not ready yet to turn it into W's.
Wow, man. See, my gut's telling me go with the Giants and a win. I'm going to say 23-17. And I know if the Giants lose on Monday when I do my show, people are going to be like, you jinxed the Giants. What's the matter with you? But you're telling me go with my gut. I think the Giants win this one. And, not because I said that I won't pick against them for the rest of the games before their bye week.
Right.
But that's how I feel. I mean, the Jaguars, look, they're a good team. Let's give credit where it's due. They're got better. Some strengths.
They're better, right.
Some of their strengths kind of worry me a little bit because where they're strong, the Giants are weak on the other side. But Daboll, as you said, Kafka, Wink Martindale, they have come up with ways to create, confusion, to bring this team back, to come from behind wins over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The Giants are learning how to win. So I feel good about this coaching staff. And I've never felt, the last time I felt this way about a coaching staff was when Tom Coughlin was the head coach. And, you knew that they weren't going to lose. That's how I feel about this staff. I feel like no matter what, they're going to find a way and they're going to pull it out, whether it's, a last minute play or something, or, So yeah, I'm going with the Giants.
So one thing I do like about the staff, Kafka, if I'm not mistaken, came from the Chiefs. Did he?
Yes.
Okay, so you get your offensive coordinator from the Chiefs. You get Wink Martindale from the Ravens or from a game show, one or two. He sounds like a game show host, right? So you get Wink Martindale from the Ravens. And then Brian Daboll has this. He came from Buffalo recently, but he was associated for so long with Nick Saban at Alabama and with Bill Belichick. You have leadership that is used to winning. That's one of the things I really, really like about Doug Peterson, because Doug Peterson did the impossible, and you know that better than anybody because you've been covering the NFC East. That being said, it's still going to come down to the biggest stories that we had today. And what that is both of us use the word identity. Whoever is able to make, you either going to play it on the beach or you're going to play it in the Bronx. That's the way it is. It's the beach or the Bronx, right? So my thing is, it's going to be whoever can have their identity on fleek. Which one is going to be? I can't believe I just used that word, by the way, on fleek. But whoever's going to be the one to impose their will on the other person and be able to recognize themselves when they get on that field in the fourth quarter is going to win. And I think I said 17-16. I meant 19-17. I meant Jags go up 17-16 and the Giants kick a field goal and win 19-17. So that's the biggest stories. And I think the key matchups for me, well, of course, yours, it's about 26. Can they tackle 26? And then can the Giants take advantage of the other 26? And I heard they're up there licking their chops like sharks, you know, and he's got blood on his shirt and they're sharks. So we're going to have to see what happens, man. Who's going to impose their will? Who's going to win the key matchups come this Sunday?
And of course, you know, the Jacksonville Jaguars, you know, not a team that the Giants see a lot. I think the last time they saw them, it didn't end very well. So the Giants looking for a happier ending, as they've got 2 more games before they hit their bye week, both back-to-back on the road, Jacksonville, and then they head out to Seattle, who's been playing pretty well with Geno Smith out there. But you know what? One game at a time. The Giants aren't looking ahead. They're saying all the right things about the Jaguars, as they have every other opponent. It's going to be a good one. You know, a nice battle of wits. And you know, just as a little side note before we call it a show, Doug Peterson, of course, was with the Eagles for a number of years. He was the head coach there. The Giants, you know, they have tape on what the Eagles used to do under Peterson and, you know, some of the philosophies that he liked to run, especially on offense. So don't think for a second that Daboll didn't go into the archives, dust that tape off and take a look at it just to get some ideas as to maybe what they might be in for this weekend. So it's going to be a great battle of wits. That's for sure.
It will. And this is the Thursday crossover with Giants and Jags. Now, come tomorrow on Friday, I know what I usually do is try to give you a silver lining and tell you how the Jags can win the game. So I want you to make sure that you continue to make us your first listen. But until then, make your second listen to Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. I know you guys are used to me, man, but Patricia Traina is the star of this crossover. She is my buddy. I wish you were traveling and could come down here. I might have to sneak a little miniature or something up into the press box just so we can celebrate the right way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And have a good time. Yeah, but hopefully pretty soon we'll have a Locked On event or maybe Senior Bowl. We'll get a chance to get together and chop it up like that's right. We better. If not,
we got to, man.
I'm coming. And if y'all want me to see her faster, one of y'all call her Patty on YouTube and see what happens. I'll be in New York next week because I don't play the radio when it comes to my sister Patricia. For Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Giants, man, we appreciate you. And I always in my podcast saying y'all take care of each other, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take care, all.